guess to start with just introducing myself, my name is Jean Tsai, and I'm a counselor here at Ryerson's Counseling Center. I'm also the coordinator at the center responsible for community and outreach. And I'm very happy to be here this morning to talk to you a little bit about our programs and services and answer questions that you might have. So at the Center for Student Development and Counseling, we have a team of professional counselors, and instead of calling it Center for Student Development and Counseling for ease, I'll just refer to it as Counseling Center. I'll talk to you a little bit more about our team in a second, but I do want to just start with inviting you and starting our presentation with this wheel. So it's a wheel of wellness, just really inviting you to consider all aspects of your wellness as you start with us here at Ryerson. And as you can see, there's lots of different components that feed into our overall well-being. There's our physical health, there's emotionally kind of how our mood is from day to day. There's socially how connected we might feel and how supported we might feel. Certainly financial stressors can be something that impacts our wellness as well. So especially if, I'm not sure if some of you are international students, but sometimes that can be an additional financial stressor to manage as well, and not insignificant at all. The idea isn't to be sort of perfect and have all the different parts in its top shape, but because they are all interconnected. If there are a couple of parts of the wheel that you pay attention to and that you really try and nurture, then they do actually kind of support other parts of the well-being wheel as well. So just inviting you to think about that. And I guess I'll just segue into how we at the Counseling Center might play into that. So we are a team of professional licensed counselors, and that consists of social workers, psychologists, and psychotherapists. And where we might come into the picture is as you encounter various challenges or stressors in your academic career, the wheel might go a little bit off balance from time to time, or it might be very difficult to figure out exactly how to go about your academic journey with kind of the best that you've got. Sometimes certain demands can really overwhelm us and just tip over the balance altogether. And so what we offer are professional counseling services to help students manage stress, better understand their emotions and cope with and take care of those emotions. Sometimes the way that we might feel and sort of like overall stress and well-being can also be affected by our thinking habits and our patterns. Sometimes our minds can have habits of worry or habits of fixating on ways of looking at ourselves that actually don't help or support us. But it can be just a really kind of jumbled mess when we're trying to figure it all out in our own heads. And so that's where sort of professional counselors come in. Also, many students come in to our center to help, to look for help around strengthening their relationships or dealing with relationship issues. And whether that's in a sort of intimate, close romantic relationship sense, or friendships, or very commonly relationships with family. So those are the kinds of things that people would come in to talk to us about as well. And then all of this actually can support our sense of self-esteem and self-confidence, like when we're better able to manage the different difficulties that come our way in life, where we feel better about ourselves and we're able to kind of move forward in the way that we would like to. So that's a little bit about kind of how counseling can help. And I'll just talk a little bit more in depth about the kinds of services that we do offer at the center. So it is fully confidential and free of charge. So just really wanted to start off with that. It's already covered in your in the fees that you pay. And by confidential, it's just so everything that you share with a counselor at the center is kept there, and no information will be shared with others without your permission. So it creates a bit of a safe space where you can talk about things without being worried about, somebody else might know about this, or I don't want my instructor to know about this. So for sure, no information will be disclosed to your professors or other staff on campus unless you wish us to. Now, currently, because of the COVID context, our services are all offered virtually through the phone and video appointments. And we offer different appointments. The first one to talk about is our same day appointment. So that's your kind of first point of contact coming in. If you're coming into the center for the first time, which I assume many of you are because you're joining us, you can call or email to book an appointment for the same day. And that's an appointment to talk a little bit about what kind of support you might need and what kinds of issues you might be dealing with. And then you figure out a bit of a plan with your same day counselor around how to address that. So it's called same day, but it can also be a pre-booked option if you call in and our appointments on the same day are already filled. Then there sometimes can be the option to book other appointments further down the week if that's what you would like to do. And then from there, we offer both brief counseling and ongoing psychotherapy. So for many students with very kind of specific and focused issues, sometimes the same day appointment might be sufficient, or 2 to 3 brief counseling follow-up sessions after that to see how the plan is going. That could be sufficient. So that's kind of what the brief counseling sessions are. And then for students who might need more ongoing counseling and psychotherapy support, we offer that as well. In terms of crisis supports, I'll talk a little bit more about that. We've partnered with an agency called Keep Me Safe, I should say a service called Keep Me Safe, and they're able to provide 24/7 crisis support. And then also it could be kind of overwhelming to know what supports to connect to and for the issues that you want to work on, exactly what are the best resources. So we often help students navigate that and just find like what might be the best fit in their care. So I'll just move to the next slide to talk a bit about that, the Keep Me Safe service. So all Ryerson students are able to access this service. They also provide video, phone, and in some cases, I believe, chat-based or text-based support as well. And the way to access this service is through an app called MySP. You can download it on Apple Store or Google Play. And through there, you can set up a profile and you'll get matched with a counselor. The counselors here are licensed as well. And if you are an international student, and let's say you're not currently actually physically here in Ontario, you can still access the service at a time that works for your time zone and your schedule for sure. And the other thing to keep in mind is they also offer over 60 preferred languages. So if you'd like to speak to a counselor in a language other than English, that would be something that would be helpful. You can access that through Keep Me Safe as well. So one other type of resource that's available to you is if you are registered with the Ryerson Student Union, that's RSU, Student Health and Dental Plan, then through that, you'll also have an amount of money that you can use to access counseling or mental health support in the community, so outside of Ryerson. Many of our students prefer this as well. It's $1,000, and sometimes it means quicker access to a counselor. Sometimes it means being able to see someone who's separate from the campus community, which sometimes people like that. And you also get to kind of choose a little bit more the kind of therapy and therapist that you might like to work with. So that's an option as well. And if you're not sure how to access that or which therapists or counselors to reach out to in the community, you're more than welcome to come into our center too, and we can help you navigate how you want to use this resource. So it's a really good one to consider too throughout your academic journey. And then just really quickly, so this is not the Counseling Center, but it's the Ryerson Medical Center. Right now, the doctors are offering virtual appointments and telephone through video and telephone mainly. And they also offer what's called mental health assessment and can help students who might want to explore medication options. Sometimes students prefer to go on medication to help manage their mood or mental health concerns. And so the Ryerson Medical Center is where you would go for that. Here is where you can call and make an appointment, or you can email and make an appointment. Their messages are, they're like us, they check their messages regularly throughout the day and try and get back to students as soon as they can. At the medical center, we also have, so in addition to physicians, we also have psychiatrists. And so for students who want a more kind of in-depth mental health assessment, that's available with a psychiatrist as well. So just want to mention that. So coming back to the counseling center and counseling appointments, this is the number that you would call. And when you call, you can and leave a message, and the messages are checked regularly, or you can email it as well. The hours here are 9 to 4:38, 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Eastern time. Our website also has some information. Some of it is still needing to be updated to reflect the COVID context, but there is a page with the most up-to-date information on current supports and resources in the COVID context. So I encourage you to check that out as well. And then come back to see if we have any questions. Anyone have any questions at all about counseling services or support? And please know too that your questions will be anonymous. So once you type them into the chat, only Royale can see it. And then I will get to hear from Royale what that question might be and be happy to answer. We have a few minutes. If there are no questions, we do have a few more minutes, and I'm happy to go over some of the well-being tips that we skipped over. Can I just ask everyone to type in the chat really quick if they would like that?
It looks like everyone is interested in hearing some of those tips.
Tips? Okay, that's great. Awesome.
We got 5 minutes.
Okay, then let's go back to this. I'll go back to sharing my screen. One of the first things, I'd like to focus on this if we only have 5 minutes. One of the first things to staying well is to be able to notice where you actually are at to begin with. And so, because if you're not really sure how you're feeling or why you might be feeling something, then there's not much you can do about it. So that kind of like noticing and understanding where you might be at is like the fundamental kind of first step. And this graphic here offers a good roadmap for us to kind of do that check-in. And so beginning with here, the window of tolerance, this is a kind of state, mental state, emotional state, where we kind of feel our best. So you see it says smooth sailing, kind of being in the zone. This is kind of where people feel the most calm and joyful and able to focus and concentrate and make decisions. And it's important to note that it's not like you don't have feelings and it's just very kind of like dead and numb in here, but it's more that, you know, you have different emotions and moods maybe, but you sort of can coast through them pretty okay. And it doesn't overwhelm you, and you can feel things and still be clear in your thinking, etc. So a very sweet place to be in, and that's where we want to be most of the time. When things get to be too much though, what can happen is we can get into a stress response that can get triggered. We can either go up in the window, or we can crash into the bottom part. So the up part of it is a general sense of like, overwhelm, panic. You might feel very restless or anxious, lots of worry thoughts, sometimes lots of anger maybe, or irritation. You might kind of like get angry at people, lose your patience easily. Um, People can experience difficulty sleeping in here, or difficulty with kind of breath, like the breath or heart rate can kind of quicken. Lots and lots of kind of tension in the body. So if you want a visual, it's like this. It's just like it's too much. And then on the other side of what can happen when we go into a stress response is we could kind of crash too. And so that's the sort of like, oh, everything feels like too much and I need to shut down. I can't do anything. I don't have any motivation. I feel numb, no feelings. I don't feel like talking to anybody or doing anything. And so it's important to recognize that when you're in that stage, that's also an indication that one of your stress responses has been activated. So whether you're in the up kind of like hyper arousal zone in the window, or the sort of like, oh, shut down, can't feel anything place, it's really important to be able to have a different skill set or tools to bring yourself either back up into the window or back down into the window. And then, so some of the tips that I shared are organized that way. Really quickly, when we're feeling more on the sort of down and numb and shut down side of things, it's really important to have different kinds of habits and routines that help bring you out of that. So if, and this is such a challenge for everyone right now, but excessive screen time is something that can help maintain that shutdown and numbness. Physical activity, however, can have an upregulation effect. Even if you don't feel like doing it at all, sometimes getting the body moving, even just gently with stretches or walks, can kind of break up that shutdown pattern and get a little bit more energy happening. So just kind of keep that in mind, that there are different things that you can do to kind of bring yourself back up if you're feeling the struggle around motivation. Things like having interests and cultivating hobbies and things that bring you joy, that really kind of pump you up, that's really important too. And even if it feels like it takes away from your time in your schoolwork, remember this wheel, that, you know, your academics is one part of it for sure, a very, very important part. But if the other parts of the wheel crash and suffer, so is your academics that's the same is gonna happen to that. So just really hope to kind of hammer that point home for you. And then lastly, this part here, the last point around connections and seeking out community, that's both good for breaking out of the numb and shutdown. It's also very comforting and can help people down regulate and get back into the window from an overwhelmed place too. I mean, after all, we are very social creatures and we need connection and community to help us manage. So really invite you to consider prioritizing that too, where possible, especially given the studying from home context. So many, many, many thanks for sticking it through the presentation with us here. I will stop share now. If you do have any questions at all that we didn't kind of get to, or you didn't get to ask, you're welcome to email the Counseling Center directly as well. So it's csdc@ryerson.ca. And yeah, if there's any parts of the presentation you'd like to review, just know you'll also get the recording as well. So if you've joined us a little bit later, no worries. You're welcome to review the material from before.